Then let's start the strike.
Welcome to Shut It Down, the Amazon Teamsters podcast. I'm your host, Randy Corrigan, the director of the Amazon division at the International Brotherhood of Teamsters. In this episode, you're going to hear from Jesse Marino, a former Amazon driver that Amazon doesn't want to claim as theirs. And we're going to actually talk about that trial that's ongoing, that's holding Amazon accountable as we speak. On a recent episode, we discussed why we believe Amazon is a joint employer and they're responsible for the drivers. All of you drivers out there, you know that Amazon has complete control. In this episode, we're going to hear in more detail from Jesse Marino. You're seeing these Amazon drivers make deliveries, and you're confused about why Amazon is saying they're not their drivers, even though they have their uniform, driving an Amazon truck, coming out of an Amazon facility where you ordered from Amazon, and then Amazon saying they're not our drivers. This trial is about exposing that business model, and this trial is about holding them accountable and how the U.S. government is taking a position that Amazon is responsible and Amazon should be doing things to protect these drivers versus just sitting back and dumping their responsibility on other people. You're going to hear stories of how these workers are not just waiting for an outcome determinative in the legal process, that they're actually doing it. They're doing it themselves where they're agitating change on the job. They have that control under the law and they're not hesitating. And they're actually asking you to do the same. Don't wait. Don't hesitate on some legal outcome. Engage. Don't sit back and hope that someone else is going to take care of it. Make sure that you hold corporate America accountable. You have the ability, just like these workers are doing it right now, not just hold corporate America accountable, but hold Amazon accountable. Here's the conversation. Enjoy another great episode. Well, we're back. Last time we were all sitting here together. We also had Dave Suholtz on, and we really talked about the dynamic of Amazon's control over the DSP operations, over the drivers, even though Amazon says that they don't want to take responsibility. They want to dump all the responsibility on the driver. We did a little bit of kind of digging into that. Today's podcast really want to dig a little deeper. Let's have a little bit more conversation, because there's an interesting perspective now, I think, that Jesse, you can bring to the table, which is you actually sat through the trial, the beginning of the trial, because obviously the trial has been postponed based on the government shutdown. So you sat through multiple days of the trial, and probably what an eye-opener seeing this part of the process, right?
Oh yeah, definitely. To actually be sitting inside this courtroom, hearing both sides of it, hearing Amazon lawyers and what their essentially their boss is telling them to say, what not to say, what to keep from us. It's incredible. It's a lot of information that me as a driver and that other drivers, Amazon employees will see and will hear themselves.
Well, could you imagine if all the drivers were able to kind of sit in that room and watch and hear the attorneys for Amazon kind of say the things that they were saying? Imagine that viewpoint. You know what I mean? That's probably what you're referring to, right?
Oh, yeah. It's shocking. I mean, it's everything that we already know. We are Amazon employees, and right. Amazon keeps trying to get away from that.
Denial all they want, right?
Yeah.
So how did it make you feel kind of being in that space, sitting there the entire time?
I mean, it felt amazing. It's been, 2+ years in the making. What me and my guys in Palmdale out of Battle Tested Strategies, the delivery service partner that delivers these packages for Amazon, what we started out there to actually be in this courtroom and actually see what we have been fighting for, and to prove what we have been fighting for and fighting to prove, which is joint employer. Amazon is our employer, and it's amazing to actually be there and witness it.
Let's give the setting real quick. You have a ton of lawyers sitting there, right? You obviously have, it's a courtroom setting. You have a judge that's presiding over all of the evidence being presented. You have a witness stand where a witness comes up and gives testimony. You have multiple attorneys for Amazon, correct?
Yep.
You have BTS in the room, which is the contractor, Jonathan Irvin.
Right.
You have multiple attorneys for the National Labor Relations Board, correct? and then you have multiple attorneys on behalf of the union itself, right?
Correct.
So, and then you're sitting there. You're designated as a representative of the Teamsters as the union to participate in these proceedings. So you're able to participate in the entire thing. And obviously, having you sitting in the room gives a worker perspective on when things are being said to help the attorneys that are presenting, kind of guide them through, because the attorneys don't work or didn't work inside the operation. So that's the setting for all of you that are listening in. And I guess my question to you first would be, how do you think the lawyers responded so far? Because obviously it's not done. It's only partially through, but a lot of evidence has come out on the joint employer issue. How do you think the lawyers viewed this information? How do you think they viewed a driver's perspective, or how they viewed this arrangement? And I mean, lawyers, you got different perspectives. You got Amazon's going to argue against anything said, but then you have obviously the other attorneys that are sitting there. What's your perspective on what the attorneys are taking in on all this testimony?
I mean, well, the attorneys on our side, those with the National Labor Relations Board and those on the Teamster side, they have heard a lot of this through, us drivers out of battle tested strategies.
Interviewing other drivers, right? All over the country. Yeah,
exactly. They've interviewed us. They've spoke to us. They've heard our stories coming straight from our mouths, and to hear, the Amazon lawyers deny evidence or try to hide more of the information that is going to prove that we are in their Amazon's employees is just baffling to the NLRB lawyers and our lawyers, because I mean, Amazon is going to continue to do that. Hide this evidence and hide the fact that we are.
What do you mean by that? Hide that evidence? I'm hoping you're going to bring up what I'm going to bring up if you don't, because I saw it too. Yeah, straight up hide. What do you mean by that? What did you see?
Well,
you were sitting there. You're probably shocked by it.
We're going to ask for evidence from Amazon to obviously give to us that we already know is there, but Amazon
under subpoena.
They by law have to give up this evidence, but Amazon lawyers are sitting there straight up saying our client, meaning Amazon, is refusing to produce these documents that are being asked for by the Teamsters, and Amazon is ready to deal with the consequences. As in,
they just said, we're not going to comply. They just said, we're not going to comply.
Right.
We're just not going to give you any of the information in which has been requested under subpoena power.
Right. That's
what you mean by hiding.
By hiding.
Yeah.
They're hiding all this evidence that we already know is going to prove we are their employees. But, that's another great thing to be in there and to witness, BTS's side of it. Jonathan Irving, the owner of BTS, shout out to him for actually standing up alongside us, being, he voluntarily recognized us unionizing because he knows what it is to be a driver. He has seen his drivers been put through hell on these streets. When my coworkers, I wasn't there for it, but the year before we had, started this fight, they signed a petition to make these changes. Jonathan produced that petition to Amazon, and Amazon said that there's nothing that they could do about it. So he was trying to make these changes, and to be in that courtroom and see him actually produce these documents that Amazon is refusing to produce, which is the proof that we need, or that
the process that you need, because right? You're as a driver or a former driver, or the proof that other drivers need to hold the proper entity accountable, that Amazon's in control. Amazon is trying to dump their responsibility on someone else. They're trying to hide behind this shield. And the reality is it's a proof that drivers need to hold their real employer accountable. Correct?
Correct.
And was it interesting? Man, it had to be incredibly interesting to watch that kind of play out in the way the testimony came out.
Yeah, no, 100%.
And you probably saw there were multiple reporters in the room over those few days, right?
Right.
And they ended up actually writing about what they witnessed as far as the testimony was concerned. And those reporters were pretty shocked by the evidence that had surfaced as far as Amazon's control. As a matter of fact, one of them had said very plainly, I don't see any way he's like, I'm not a lawyer, but I don't see any way Amazon gets away or gets out of being held as a joint employer minimally, if not the employer.
100%.
That's how much control is exerted through that document, the documents that surfaced.
Right. The documents that Amazon was trying to hide and keep from us.
And which means there's a lot more, right?
Oh, yeah.
So there's a ton more documents that are not accessible yet that they're refusing to supply under subpoena power.
Right.
But clearly BTS and what has been gained so far has been able to kind of be laid out. So, again, good progress, more to go, and definitely looking forward to those next steps. What message do you think, as being a former driver, what message, and speaking on behalf of all these drivers, is essentially what you're doing right now, because you've been down this road. You workers did what you did at BTS. You've endured Amazon's response to it. What message would you like other drivers that are still driving for Amazon, working at other contractors, what would you like for them to learn from this?
We all know, we wear Amazon colors, we wear their uniforms, we drive their vans. I mean, Amazon as a driver could fire you. They could discipline you. They have the control. And, through this trial, we're proving that, we're bringing that to light, within our government. But we can't just continue to wait on this and continue to just hope the courts do their job and hold Amazon accountable. We have to continue to fight, continue to organize, reach out to your local union out there, your local Teamsters, and, get involved. Like, with Jonathan Irving and BTS, Amazon is always going to find a scapegoat, somebody to blame. But there are owners out there that are sympathetic, that actually care about us, but
would like to do more, but they can't, because the system, Amazon's built a business model that is completely rigged to pinch and kind of corner or put everybody in a silo,
right?
And then dump all the responsibility on them, and then when it's all over, they go, "Oh yeah, it's not us," and they walk away.
Yeah.
But what kind of what's the, in addition? I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. I was just obviously getting excited.
You're fine.
The message you just said is, the legal process is working, but the workers got to do some things too. Yeah. What's that mean? What do you mean by that?
I mean, we hold the power. I mean, Amazon can't make this money without us.
That's correct. If every driver in this country that's a subcontractor withheld their labor at the same time, guess what would happen?
Yep.
Amazon really wouldn't have much of a choice but to come to terms, right?
Yeah. And we got a taste of that in December with our our first actual Amazon strike.
Yeah.
And Amazon felt that. And we all felt that as Amazon employees. We all saw that. And we could continue to do that, continue to withhold our labor until Amazon respects us and pays us and gives us our fair wage for the fair work that we put out for this company.
Yeah. How long is Amazon going to go through this dog and pony show, this charade, this kind of sham business model where they're dumping all the responsibility on others, yet, not allowing the drivers that are completing that last mile and making sure that delivery makes it to the doorstep to, profit, clearly the working conditions are tough.
Mm-hmm.
The economic situation in which Amazon controls and how much they're kind of forcing the contractor to pay. They say, oh, we can pay whatever they want, but obviously the contractor can't pay more than what they're getting in the contract between the contractor and Amazon, right? So there's clearly a limit there. There's a ceiling. There's a ceiling based on how much Amazon is paying the contractor.
Mm-hmm.
The control really here is in the driver's hands.
Yeah.
They have all the control. Amazon's now big enough that the drivers, if all the drivers were to figure out how to manage this on their own and exercise their power, who's going to do the work?
Yeah. Nobody.
Right. Yeah, right. You answered it.
Yeah. You said, how long are we going to let them? It's as long as we let them. Right. We hold the power. We could do it. We stand together.
And if you're listening, as long as you let them, it's now up to you. Don't wait on this trial to complete, because the board, the government already agrees with you. Other entities agree with you that Amazon is responsible. That's why these things are proceeding. No, regardless of how they play their legal game, they ignore a subpoena, or they try to delay a trial, or they try to do this, or they try to do that. what's going to expedite that is what you do as drivers. Talk a little bit about that, because you got to be inspired by seeing what even more and more drivers have done beyond what you did in Palmdale.
Yeah, there was 84 of us that started out here in Palmdale, and yeah, it was terrifying. We might have been the first ones to get it going, but as of right now, there's thousands of Amazon employees out there, and I say employees because it's
That's
not
who
just
they really
drivers,
are, right?
It's not just the drivers; it's the warehouse workers.
Yeah.
It's anybody that walks into these facilities, wear these colors, and work for this company. We started a movement, but right now, like I continue to say, it's continuing to catch fire, and it's going throughout the entire country. You could jump on any social media, look up Amazon Teamsters, and you will see different states, different counties, different locals fighting against Amazon for what we deserve. Yeah, Amazon thought they were doing something by cutting our contract, but instead they just shot themselves in the foot. We spread across the country, and now look at us. Now look where we're at.
Homegrown.
Yeah.
Organic. Workers reaching out to workers. I know that you've had thousands of workers that have reached out over this time. Maybe not to you individually, hundreds at least reaching out to you, seeing what you did and then doing the same thing, because it's like, okay, oh yeah, we can do this. And then recognizing kind of their collective power. What are those conversations like when you talk to a worker that first reached out, they didn't know, then they knew, then they did it, and then they experienced that power? Isn't that incredible?
It's very incredible, because it might start with one person, them being me, but then they start doing what I'm doing, organizing, getting people to reach out to them, and it's not just one person organizing, it's multiple people, multiple counties, multiple states. And that's how this grows. That's how this movement grows. So if you know somebody out there that is struggling, that is fighting with Amazon, is disciplined by Amazon, and you're somebody that can make that change or make that difference, open that door for them, reach out to them. Don't just wait for them to reach out to you, because now is the time. Fear is very real within organizing and fighting one of the biggest corporations out there. But you were not alone. We were not alone. You were not alone. And we'll just continue to do this, continue to reach out.
You explaining what you explained reminds me of something that happened on an organizing drive 20 some years ago. I had these workers that were doing a demand for recognition with their boss, and a smaller company, just a local operation, and an individual. The individual at the time was in his 50s, one of the committee people. We walked through the warehouse, or they walked through the warehouse. They went inside the operation. They found the operations manager, demanded recognition, and when they came out, they felt so exhilarated and so like empowered. They had never experienced anything like that. And this one individual still sticks out to me. He says, "Man," he goes, "Randy, I've had 2 heart attacks. I've raised, a couple kids. 50 some years old. And walking through the warehouse was one of the most terrifying things I've ever done in my life." He goes, "But as soon as I walked out that door, walked out the door once we did what we need to do, holding the boss accountable. It was the most empowering thing I've ever done." Mm-hmm. And man, I'm getting goosebumps right now because I'm remembering the setting and what happened and what these workers did. And obviously they ultimately ended up becoming successful, getting a union contract, all that good stuff. And that's what reminds me right now. What you're telling me is you're watching workers experience that.
Yeah.
Conquer that fear as they're making the steps. Maybe symbolically maybe it's symbolically at the moment. They're conquering some fear. Maybe it's real. Maybe they're actually part of the March on the Boss. Mm-hmm. But then the moment happens, and then pulling away from it, they go, "Oh man, we do have the power." We held them accountable. They had to listen. They had to address it. They had to make a change. They had to ultimately agree to a contract, whatever it was. How does this make you feel?
Oh, I mean, it's 100% like that.
Especially when you see others do it.
You have people that, like you said, that are part of the March and the Boss, that do some kind of other action that that brings them closer to that fight. It invigorates them. It makes them want to participate more. And in turn, they go reaching out to their friends, be like, oh, I got somebody that's going to love this. And that's how we continue to build the movement and continue to build the numbers. I mean, if you ask my 84 guys, a lot of them didn't know who I was early on. I went to Amazon trying to keep my head down, but seeing this, being a part of it, and seeing that there could actually be a change, I'm a completely different person than who I was when I first started with BTS. And that's because of this fight.
That's a very powerful statement, Jesse. Is that positive or negative?
Oh, 100% positive.
Describe that. Why?
Well, as I said a little earlier,
I think we got to get a little more detail.
When I first started at BTS, my coworkers didn't know who I was. I went to work keeping my head down, but then hearing, that there could actually be a change to Amazon, to the working life of us Amazon employees, I wanted a little more information. And hearing the Teamsters chanting, coming onto the parking lot, like I'm getting chills just even talking about that.
Yeah, you're reliving
seeing
the
that
moment.
First moment and being there. It was extremely empowering. And I took it upon myself to speak with our leaders at the time at BTS and get a little more involved, get the information needed. And I jumped all in, from getting our coworkers to sign authorization cards, meeting up with them at their homes, getting to know them as actual people, getting to know my coworkers who in turn turned to family, being out on strike, walking out of the job, marching on the boss. All these actions were extremely empowering to know that I actually had a voice, and to be able to travel to other states, getting more people involved, hearing their stories, listening to them. They're human beings dealing with the same issues. It might be 1,000 miles away, doesn't mean that the issues aren't the same there. Seeing them, giving them their voice, showing them that they could actually do the same and move on the boss, on our employer, who is Amazon. Being able to go to Germany, to Europe, hearing them across the pond having the same issues, seeing other unions fighting against Amazon, seeing how corrupt Amazon is across the country, across the world, seeing people part of that, and actually going out to other facilities, which is a huge part, getting other people involved. I have met some of the most incredible people, from Skokie all the way to over here in California, being part of DAX 8, organizing DAX 5 in City of Industry, meeting some great people. I could name countless people, and big shout out to Vanessa out of DAX 5 in City of Industry, hearing her stories and hearing what she's gone through, hearing what I could get emotional just talking about her, because she's been through a lot, and she's pushed through that fear.
Doing something about it and pushed through that fear.
She pushed through that fear, and she's motivated a lot of people just like I have. And that is a big thing.
She said there was more at risk not doing something than there was at risk doing something.
Exactly.
Powerful.
Exactly.
Powerful.
Mm-hmm. I mean, she stood up to her bully, just like I have, just like a lot of people have across the country. And that bully is Amazon. If you can't stand up to one, you'll lay down for everyone. And that one that we're standing up to is a huge one. That is Amazon.
You said that you went to these facilities, but you didn't describe I need you to kind of settle down on describing. You go to that facility, you workers then walk off like you did at one point, and you see that moment where they recognize they're empowered, right? Describe that.
Yeah, it started in Palmdale, and little by little, we've gone through multiple facilities in multiple states and countries, and seeing them do what we did: fight, push past that fear, talk to your coworkers, build that family, that trust, to be able to walk off the job together, demand recognition, demand change, demand what we all need, and that's safer work conditions.
Demand to be able to afford to buy a home in the neighborhood you're delivering in.
Yeah.
There is nothing wrong with that demand. There is nothing wrong with what you are doing. You are absolutely on the right track. Jesse, it sounds to me like you're asking others to do something similar to what you did.
Oh, 100%. I mean, I'm not just asking, I'm telling you guys, push through that fear, because now's the time. I've done it. A lot of my friends have done it. Family, now that I consider family, have done it at different facilities. And there are people who went out on strike in December and they are still driving. And they're still working.
What about those that think they can't do it? They can, can't they?
Everybody 100% you can. 100% you can. It's just reaching out, like I've said, to coworkers, to your locals, and getting that information that you need. Amazon is going to tell you all that they can to
they're never going to tell you. They're never going to tell you how to make the situation to where you can afford to buy a home in the neighborhood you're delivering in. They're not going to lay that path for you.
Exactly.
They've clearly said our business model is to come to work for us for a short period of time, turn over, find someone different, move on, and therefore they don't have to make a long-term commitment to anybody. While they make gabillions of dollars, I don't know if gabillion's real, but I like to make it up because it's obviously a big number. Maybe they'll create gabillions to deal with what the success of this company has. Clearly, this company has not shared its success with others. Let me shift gears here a little bit. Obviously, I participated in the trial as a witness, so I have to be careful of what I talk about because the trial is still ongoing. But I'm pretty confident that what I can share is that the overwhelming evidence when it comes to the joint employer issue is abundantly clear. I've been doing this job for over 30 years, and I have not ever seen this amount of control on a contractor. Look, the Teamsters have been part of representing workers that are contracted by other companies for over 100 years. I mean, we represented this subject before there were power vehicles, when there were horses and a wagon. And so, we're not new to a company contractor relationship. And a lot of times those things work with the right sort of setting and parameters and guidelines. But in our history, we've just never seen anything with that business model with that much control. So, as much as Amazon wants to hide and duck and dodge, at some point, as this stuff continues to come out and be as blatantly obvious as it is, it's going to hold them account. And what I want to do is I want to tie this just back, because what's forcing this to come out is what workers are doing. Because had the Palmdale workers not done what they're doing, these subjects wouldn't even be coming to light. So the fact that you all organized, you all asked BTS to recognize you, you all asked Amazon to come to the table and bargain on specific issues, you pressed and are trying to hold Amazon accountable. It's now forced all this to come to light, which ultimately turns into a trial because you did what you did. And then in between, the pressure that's been applied to the NLRB has been 50 other locations doing things that are very similar. In other words, a picket line being extended, them having the right to walk off the job, or them walking off the job and then having an extension or combination of that. The pressure that's been applied, and you've been on dozens of those picket lines personally because you were part of that original 84 and then you participated in those extensions. Talk about that pressure that's being applied, not just to the contractor, but the workers are applying that pressure to then get this to the surface so that the legal, muckety mucks can figure out, hey, the right person's got to be held accountable here. Just talk about that.
I mean, yeah, where anybody
that pressure is incredible that you've created.
Anybody you see holding an Amazon package is, an Amazon employee and a human being. I mean, these are people that are out on these streets, killing themselves to deliver these packages for you with a smile. And, that's why we continue to put this pressure.
And Amazon says they're not ours.
Exactly. We aren't Amazon employees, but that's why we continue to hold these picket lines and extend to 50 plus facilities in countless states across the county or across the country to put the pressure on our government, on the NLRB to finally give us our day in court. And that's what we've been fighting for. And I mean, we might be on pause now because of the government shutdown, but we are still on strike.
Your pressure forced the NLRB to do this.
Yeah.
It brought the issue. Your discussions with them, they went through an investigation to try to kind of turn over the evidence and talking to drivers, talking to warehouse workers, talking to employees of one sort or another is what created the pressure for the board itself to then say, guess what? We think Amazon's in the wrong here, and we're going to do something about it.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, Amazon, like you said, is continuing to try to push this just trial back or not see, the inside of a courtroom. But myself, as well as two other my coworkers, we went to the NLRB and we spoke to them to push them, to pressure them into, giving us our day in court. Because like I said, we're human beings and these are people that need to be taken care of.
And I think the general public supports that. We saw that last December. We really, really were able to view how much the general public supported your message out there. So all of you should be very proud of what you've done and how you've done that. As this trial continues, ultimately it will settle the issue at least before the National Labor Relations Board, right? Regardless of how Amazon wants to just blow off the legal process or not, is a subject that remains to be seen. But regardless, all of you drivers, all of the workers at Amazon should feel proud of the fact that they're holding one of the biggest corporations on the planet accountable. And it doesn't just stop there. It also, you talked about it earlier, the pressure that you applied by having more and more workers do exactly what you just discussed is ultimately what's going to make things happen.
Right.
Because under the law, I want this very clear, is that while this process is going on, workers have the right to seek their own remedy. The law is very clear in protected concerted activity. Even when the employer violates the law, workers have the right to seek their own remedy. That's exactly how it's worded, up to and including a labor dispute. They have the right. So when you feel that you've incurred this injustice, as workers, you have the right to seek your own remedy. Collectively, you can decide what that remedy is, and you can decide what your actions are. They call it direct action, protected concerted activity.
Right.
You have shown a firsthand example of that. You and the other drivers. How's that make you feel? Like the law that was put together in 1934 and 1935, you are literally exercising exactly what we just laid out.
I mean, you said it earlier, corporate America, is scaring us. They're trying to keep us away from that information.
They're trying to scare you.
They're trying to keep us away from that information. And, what we're doing, what other DSPs like our buddies in Skokie are doing, they're fighting against Amazon and they're challenging Amazon and they're opening the eyes to the rest of us, not just Amazon, but the labor movement, the worker in general, that we can fight back and we could seek these remedies collectively coming together and fighting against these corporate giants.
Look, Amazon didn't want this trial to happen. They used every legal trick to try to delay this. And then, crazily, as soon as it gets started, we have this government shutdown that pauses it. But because the trial is already in motion, as soon as the government shutdown's over, it gets started right away.
Yep.
So, which is really, really good. But the point is they're being held accountable right now. And, the U.S. government is taking on Amazon and holding them accountable. And again, I want to remind everybody, only because the workers are agitating it, only. It's not just the union as an institution. We are the advocate for it. Without the workers agitating this, guess what? It doesn't happen, because the testimony doesn't happen. The information doesn't happen. The documentation doesn't happen. And I guess that begs the question of, why wouldn't Amazon want to just hurry up and get the trial over? If what they say is true, we're not the employer. We're not whatever their narrative is. What do they got to hide? Why are they taking so long? Why are they playing this game? Why do you think?
Well, I think because they don't want to, give up more of their money. They don't want to pay the worker. I mean, a lot of it is, safety conditions. The states that we live in, extremely expensive. But they're just trying to hide the fact that we are their employees. They don't want to take care of more people, more employees.
And that documentation evidence is all going to prove
right
how much control they really do have.
Right. Single employer, I'm still going for.
And that's not out of the question. Maybe not in this trial, but in a future one, because there are plenty of other groups that are in motion already, right? Because you agitated a bunch of other groups, right? So, and in the end, let's just do a hypothesis here, or I guess an example or dream here. If all these drivers across the entire country that have an Amazon uniform, that drive in an Amazon van, that have Amazon equipment, and Amazon saying, "You're not mine," say, "Guess what? We're not going to deliver your packages until you acknowledge us." I think Amazon would acknowledge it pretty quickly.
Oh, yeah, 100%.
There's nobody else that can do the work.
Right.
Who else is going to do the work?
Yeah. Yeah.
That's the power you have. That's the power that's in your hands. The only thing between you and accomplishing that goal, to hold them accountable and to make sure that those working conditions and the pay and the benefits and an industry that has produced very good middle-class jobs for about 70 years now, like people that can buy homes, people that the spouse doesn't have to work if they choose not to, because they're making enough money to carry the household, that their goods and services in the area they can contribute to, be part of. Kids go into really good schools as a result of having good income, middle class income. Amazon's business model is not that right now, correct?
Right.
Give me an example. Can you give me an example of any driver that works for the contractors? I'm giving Amazon's description. Any example of drivers that work for the contractors that Amazon employs that can do what I just described: buy a home, live in that nice neighborhood, have that standard of living we just discussed that millions of other workers in this industry have benefited from the last 70 years. Give me an example of one anywhere in the country. Does it exist?
I mean, I could think of another company.
No. I'm talking at Amazon.
Oh,
no. It has to be at Amazon.
No.
You can list the other companies.
I mean, the main company that I know of is UPS.
Clearly. Right. Yeah. I mean, obviously a UPS driver can afford to probably buy in almost any neighborhood they deliver in.
Yeah.
But can an Amazon driver?
No.
Can they buy in any neighborhood they deliver in?
No. No.
It begs the question.
Yeah.
Statistically, what it looks like to us is they can't. Right. It's not a shot at the drivers. It's a shot at the model.
Correct.
It's not a shot at the drivers. It's a shot at the model.
100%. What's
your last message in workers out there that are doing exactly what you did?
Keep your head up. Keep fighting. It's not, we can only make this change if we continue to push and continue to hold Amazon accountable. And, like I said, don't just wait for our trial. Don't just wait for this great answer that we're expecting to get. Keep fighting, keep pushing, and do it together.
Yeah, because workers in this country have shown over time that regardless of the outcome or the delay in how much time some legal process takes, workers are more powerful when they take that process into their own hands and they do exactly what you're talking about, because you have that right. You're not breaking the law. You're doing what you have the right to do. Keep doing it. Keep holding them accountable. Keep pushing on a larger scale. That's how you make a difference. That's how you make it better for the people coming behind you.
100%.
Jesse, it's always great to see you. It's always great to have this conversation. It's always great to kind of go down memory lane. And it's so awesome to see those that have traveled that pathway and making change and then carrying over, cascading into other people. Thank you for coming on the show, sharing your story and inspiring other people like you are. Really appreciate that work that you're doing on behalf of workers in this industry. It is quite the accomplishment.
Well, thank you for having me, Randy. Always happy to be here. Always love to have the conversations. I mean, we need to get the message out as much as possible. And the things that you guys are doing here and the things that we're doing across the country are going to continue to spread that message. So thank you very much.
If you down to fight, then let's start the strike. Corporate greed is disgusting. Instead of us, they rather pay for union busting. Somebody said the working man a sucker. They took the stand and ran like a high jumper. Teamsters Local 804, we not having that. We gon' stand here and fight for fair contract. Fair wages on the table.